We had like zero visibility in SERPs, SEO tool without SEO, right? But we just couldn't compete with anyone in the niche.
That was Tomasz Niezgoda. He's a co-founder and head of marketing at Surfer, a well-known SEO content platform. Surfer is the 24th fastest growing company in Europe and the number one fastest growing company in Poland, all while being completely bootstrapped. Impressive, right? I've been privately talking shop with Tomasz for quite a while. And when he mentioned to me that the Surfer team was very strong at product marketing, I knew I had to invite him to Ahrefs Podcast and grill him for some details.
What made you say that you guys are good at product marketing?
Okay, so...
Other than riffing about product marketing, we also discussed what kind of impact Surfer has seen from redesigning their homepage.
We wanted to position ourselves a bit upmarket. This is a serious brand, not like the old Surfer. It's a different company right now.
Whether AI is a blessing for their business or a threat.
This is a tool, and in any hands it can be used perfectly, or they can just use it in a wrong way.
What is the marketing value of developing a certification for your SaaS product?
For brand building, it's amazing, and it creates an emotional relationship with us for those folks.
And how to get maximum value from your product webinars.
Whenever we are doing webinars, we see much higher engagement and much higher views.
This is absolutely awesome takeaway.
My name is Tim Solo, and you're listening to Ahrefs Podcast.
Ahrefs Podcast.
We wanted to make this call to talk mostly about product marketing because you mentioned you think you guys were quite good at it. I think we will go a little bit broader than product marketing, but yeah, I wonder what made you say that you guys are good at product marketing. So it's quite a broad question, but I wonder, like, how did we come to you saying this?
Okay, so probably I need to start with saying that when we were starting, we didn't do much of product marketing as I understand it right now. Fundamentally, it's something that bridges the gap between product development and product adoption. But you need to have something in order to make to take advantage of product marketing. So at first, we didn't do much of it. Instead, we were focusing on talking with people, one-to-one meetings. We were used to reply to some comments on Facebook groups or some other forums, sometimes even Reddit. When we found out a person with a certain problem that Surfer could solve, we would naturally go there, talk to them, try to offer them help completely for free, or sometimes only for them giving us a feedback about the application. And by the way, Surfer used to be for free tool for many months, probably even 2 years when we were starting. So we were doing one-on-one meetings, 10, 15 meetings per week, Michał or myself with users. And it became our additional job to the regular job that we were doing, which was building Surfer and figuring out how to market it. So at some point we figured out that if it takes 10, 15 hours a week, and we could spend 10 or 15 hours a week preparing for a webinar or for a conference where we could just do almost the same thing, but to 200 plus people at the same time, why not doing so? And we kind of scaled ourselves from doing one-on-one meetings with folks to doing webinars, content marketing mostly, right? And that's how we kicked off the traction for the product. After some months, when you have 50 people using the product and having a pretty good relationship with founders, they start talking with their friends. They are kind of coming up with their colleagues from other companies because they want them to have the same experience. And then the word of mouth started to become a thing for us. Probably for the first 6 months after we started selling subscriptions, that was 90% of our business. We didn't run much ads. We didn't have we had like zero visibility in SERPs. We SEO tool without SEO, right? But we just couldn't compete with anyone in the niche. Even in the Polish scene, right? There were like other tools that just had better SEO than us. Well, so that was like the very beginning of our story, and eventually at some sorry.
Yeah, I just want to say, so basically what you're saying is that your product marketing started from webinars, because when you were talking to customers directly, well, we're getting a little bit into the definitions kind of area, like what is what, and this is all that doesn't matter that much. But I wonder, so yeah, you were talking to customers, you were explaining them how to use the software, and actually, as I was listening to another podcast that you've done, you mentioned that you had a problem in the beginning where people would sign up for Surfer and they wouldn't understand how to use it. But then you said that you invested a lot in the UI to make it more kind of user friendly and things like that. But it seems that you were also doing a lot of kind of one-on-one calls explaining the software. And then you realized that you can have multiple people on the same call, which would be more productive. So would you say that webinars were kind of the first product marketing tactic that you started implementing?
Yes, exactly. And I know that for some folks that naturally fits under content marketing, right? But it overlaps in so many places. So for us, product education, webinars, sometimes videos, blog documentation, basically, it used to be the first attempts towards doing product marketing for Surfer.
So one of the reasons why I'm asking is because Ahrefs wasn't doing any webinars for, well, I've been with the company for 9 years. I think for 8 years, we weren't doing any kind of product webinars for people. I remember in the very, very beginning, when I joined the company, I tried doing a few webinars, but they were not kind of webinars for existing customers or customers who sign up. I tried to make a lead gen webinar where I would try to explain what the software does and try to sell it. I think we might even have offered a discount to kind of track how many people would sign up. It was absolutely pathetic. I wasn't, Neil Patel kind of webinar where he sells his courses, but that's an entirely different approach and an entirely different product. And I think we tried doing this just a couple times, once or twice. I realized that nobody is buying the software, and then we didn't touch webinars for a long, long time. So it's interesting that you started doing that. And one other relevant thing that I've noticed is that when I went to your pricing page to see what you're offering under each plan, there was onboarding call that you offer to people who are signing up for a package that costs $219. I think it's called Scale AI plan. So is it really that for every person who signs up for this $200 package, you offer an onboarding? Is that a group onboarding call or is that a personal onboarding?
No, it's a personal call, and it's a fast track for having that onboarding call, right? If someone is, let's say, not like super warm customer and just signs up to Scale AI package and just wants to have this onboarding, that's the fast track. But seriously, we are doing that for other folks as well. Even for customers on legacy plans that cost $50 a month. If they're willing to talk to us, we definitely will find a person who they will be able to contact with.
One-on-one call.
One-on-one call, yes. So, at Surfer, there are like product managers talking with users naturally about the product, right, and how to make it better. We have 10 or 11 people at support team, and they also conduct those calls with customers. Sometimes just because it's easier for them to explain how things works, and the customer is willing to have a call. So, well, if you can spend 15 minutes doing so, it's even easier for them than just keep, writing and getting back and forth about the stuff. And, even Michał, myself, sometimes other folks from executive teams are having those calls with customers because we are not using it as a marketing asset, or let's say we don't want to sell things on those calls, but rather we pick brains of our users to understand how they look at our product, if our positioning is still relevant and valid, how they compare us to the competition on the market, and finally, what are their suggestions for improvements for our application? Because when someone is truly engaged, like they are willing to have a call with us, they need to spend an hour on a call with a company, right? From that they just, I don't know, the product that you're using for like, I don't know, a couple of weeks sometimes. So that's, for us, a great situation, right? So we are always trying to talk with those folks.
So I have two questions. First of all, how many calls, do you know how many of those one-on-one calls you guys do per month? Like
per month? Yeah, so if we will...
or per week, whatever, like if you know
yeah.
any of those numbers. Or just approximately. Is it
Okay.
like in hundreds per week? Or is it like 500 per week? What kind of numbers are we talking about?
I think we are talking about dozen per week, that's for sure. I don't want
dozen per week across the entire organization.
Yes, I don't want to overestimate it. I think that it's as low as probably 30, 40, and maybe sometimes it's more than that, right? So approximately probably 200 a month, something like this.
200 a month.
Yeah.
So do you know if all of the people who, because you also have a personalized onboarding for enterprise, which is listed on your pricing page. Do you include that as well in those calls, or is that different?
No, that's a different story. And also I'm fine with sharing that we don't have, so many enterprise clients. So it's a completely different scale, and
Okay.
non-issue.
Okay. Do you use any specific software to do those calls? Because lately, as I've been digging into sales a little bit to understand how things work there, I've heard a lot of good feedback about software called Gong that kind of analyzes the calls and provides a lot of data. Well, it's especially useful for salespeople because it can kind of attribute conversions or sales to certain topics that were discussed. I think it even can track like emotional response or something like that. But I wonder if those calls that you're doing with customers are somehow, I don't know, organized, analyzed, if you're collecting any data on that front, or you're just doing calls on, I don't know, Zoom or Google Meets and not track anything.
So there is an application that we use. It's called Fireflies.
Fireflies.
And you can install it on your computer, and it can pop up to any meeting you have. I believe it also works for Zoom calls. We mostly operate on Google Meet, but I think it works for Zoom calls as well. So what it does, it takes notes. Of course, if the user agrees to just having this conversation recorded, but 90% of them are fine with it, so we have a coverage. It does two things. Probably more, but we are using those two things. First, it takes notes, and secondly, it summarizes the conversation. So, for example, a product manager who just talked with a customer doesn't have to go through his own notes or a transcript to pick those nuggets and then share it within an entire company. We have like dedicated Slack channel for customer insights, and it's very active. Like probably every day we have some insights from our customers shared there, and they pick what to share. For example, we released one feature 1 month ago called Auto Optimize, and the traction was awesome. And of course, there are a lot of positive messages about that, but it's not like super important for us to keep getting, those very positive notes about it. What it matters is how to make it better. So whenever we find a person who struggles with it, for example, we found out that Auto-Optimize has some problems with like super long content, with 10,000 word articles, right? We just couldn't replicate it. It was a problem for a certain user. And eventually we kind of found a bug, right? So we fixed it. And then the person who just reported it could react and share this with the customer. And the customer was super happy because, well, now the workflow is better. But actually, it improved workflow for probably 100 more customers just because one person raised that during the call.
Firefly's AI, I think we used it. I have a fun story to tell. So when there was all this hype around AI and AI chatbots and AI help, blah, 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 we were doing different marketing meetings now and then. And I said, okay, let's give a chance to those like AI listeners or whatever, AI chatbots to try to summarize our call. So I asked one of our marketers to sign up for, I think, 4 or 5 different tools that do this, that listen in on the call, to later see which one of them would provide better takeaways. But during the call, I wanted to purposefully kind of throw it off. And we started discussing what would happen to our company if aliens invade tomorrow. And also we spent a little too much time discussing if we should offer ice cream at one of our booths at a conference. I think it was about Brighton SEO. And during the conversation, we kept coming back to those things, to the joke about aliens invading and to ice cream being the most important thing. And I think you see where this is going, because none of the AI tools, it caught the sentiment. It didn't understand that we were joking about these things. So it legit said like, the company discussed the plan of what would happen if aliens would invade, and if ice cream is like a good piece, a good thing kind of to attract people to your booth. So yeah, I'm not sure. I think it was like half a year ago or something like that. Maybe those things improved, but overall, even judging by how it did takeaways from the actual things, the kind of the serious things that we discussed, it was far, like, as I was reading through the notes and as I was thinking of which kind of important or salient points we were discussing during the meeting that I wanted people to remember, it was quite off. But to be frank, one exercise that I used to do and still sometimes do with some of the people that I have meetings and calls with, I ask them to write down the notes of what we discussed. Because sometimes when we're discussing some problem, one thing is when people forget it. Another thing is when people misunderstand it. Mm-hmm. And when I see a recap of the call and I see how they framed something, I can tell, oh, that's actually not what I wanted you to do. I wanted you to do different. So I think we can give AI a little bit of slack, that if people during the conversation misunderstand each other, and I'm not saying that it's another person's fault. It's my fault as well. If I'm not able to communicate exactly what I want, it's my fault as well. So yeah, that was an interesting story that we had. Maybe we'll try those things. Are you happy with how those tools work?
So personally, I'm not using it super frequently. I'm still using a notebook, let's say. I'm just writing down some bullet points. But I see the value, because what it does, it just helps you remember things from the call. And I wouldn't recommend anyone to just take it and send over to the company without any editing or moderating it. I think that it just, when you have a call, you can fully immerse into conversation with a customer or within a team or a colleague or whatever, and then just don't have to focus on writing anything during it. But then the AI will just prepare a bullet points for you. So you can, for example, write a write-up or the summary yourself, but it will take you 5 minutes instead of 30 minutes, let's say.
Yeah, true. And actually, I made a note for myself as you reminded me of those AI tools that can follow the conversation or that can read transcripts and summarize them. Because right now, what I'm doing after each of those podcast recordings, while it's still fresh on my mind, I quickly note down the most interesting things that we discussed with the guest, and I send it to the guest as well to kind of remind them of where our conversation went. But the reason I'm doing this is because later, when we need to promote the podcast, when we need to package the podcast, and when we need to cut out interesting bits to share on social media, by that time, I don't even remember what we talked about. So this helps me a lot because I record all the introductions of a guest later, and those points help me kind of pitch the podcast, help me publish it on social media. So since I am going to do this anyway, I think it would be a good exercise to try to compare my notes and kind of what stood out for me to AI. Maybe we'll find some AI tool that can do those transcript recaps, I don't know, 80% of my quality, and I would be happy because I wouldn't be spending, I don't know, extra 15 minutes on this. This is a little productivity boost.
Yeah,
so we'll see.
Exactly. That's a great use of AI potentially. But if you wouldn't be doing those notes, then you would probably need to watch the recording again just to have those couple of bullet points. I think I have a hack for it. So perhaps you can just download the transcript. I'm not sure if the tool that we are using right now offers the transcript, but there are plenty of other tools that does it. Descript, for example, or wit.io. And then you probably can take this transcript and paste it to ChatGPT and ask it to draw some bullet points from it. And there you go.
Yeah, well, I think we'll test a bunch of different things and see what's the state of this. But yeah, back to onboarding calls that you're doing with people. So what I realized is that in the early days of Ahrefs, I also realized that people, when they were registering for the software, it was hard to understand how it works. But the way I solved it, and I sometimes tell this story now and then, it's the story of Wacom tablet. It's a tablet kind of for digital drawing, because we had one in the office, and I asked Dmitry, our CEO and founder, if I can take it home because my wife likes to draw, and I wanted to see if she would enjoy using this tablet. And when I came home, we plugged this tablet, we opened Adobe Photoshop, and we were like, now what? We have no idea how this works, what to press, what are the settings. So I went to YouTube and I searched for beginner tips, Wacom tablet. And suddenly tons of videos popped up, and YouTube's recommendation engine, once you go through the beginner's tips, it would offer you something else, and you basically go into the rabbit hole of how this all works. I searched for how to use Ahrefs, and there was almost nothing because it was year 2015. It was almost 10 years ago. And then the light bulb went off for me because I wouldn't think of reaching out to Wacom support and asking them for personalized onboarding to a tablet that I didn't even purchase. But I realized that people would probably search. Some people, maybe not all of people, some people would just give up, but some people would try to search for this information. And this is how we started doing our educational videos. And I remember, because I didn't feel confident with my English, with my presentation skills, we hired a freelancer who was recording. I helped her to create scripts, and she was recording herself on video. And this is how we created our first How to Use Ahrefs video course. So I believe you also have video courses at Surfer, right?
Yeah, that's right. And currently, YouTube even shows you what keywords to target. That's a new feature they added to the YouTube Studio, but it's amazing. It's like a Google Search Console, but for YouTube. And it shows you exactly what other videos you need to cover to make sure that, for example, a user who just saw a video about, I don't know, how to, our latest video, how to write blog posts faster, right? Then they might be interested in learning more about content marketing. So so YouTube shows you what other topics you should cover in the future. Basically, you can create a content calendar from that free tool that YouTube offers.
Okay.
And we are using it.
Okay. Yeah, so I guess this is why we didn't do much of those. I mean, I was doing those calls myself because also I wanted to understand the product better. I wanted to understand our customers better. So I had like Skype calls with customers, but I was just participating in the customer support. I was just chatting with people whenever they were asking questions. And sometimes I would just give up trying to explain. Can we just hop on a call? I will quickly show how this works to you. But yeah, somehow we didn't try to scale or do a lot of these onboarding calls. So that's interesting.
As I was mentioning regarding those onboarding calls, I think that it's extremely important for product development and positioning. I wouldn't consider it as like super efficient technique for selling stuff or for increasing your market adoption. However, indirectly, when you get a chance to improve a product and understand better how to position your product, it turns into more and better market adoption at the end, I believe.
I look at it even simpler. I like what you said before when you said that if someone wants to talk to us about our product and understand how to use it better, we are happy to jump on a call with them. So this, I have a very similar approach to, we started doing onboarding webinars where we would, I think we do them twice a month or something, where we would email all the people who just sign up for our software. And we would offer them to join a call onboarding webinar where like for 20-25 minutes, we would quickly go through the interface and then they would be asking questions and we would be showing them live of how and where they can look for this or that feature or this use case. And yeah, the rationale between that, because we of course, we're tracking like attendance, registrations, and this gives us the idea if there's a demand for it. And I think hundreds of people register for a webinar each month. I don't even know what percentage that of the actual sales, because we only offer that. We no longer have a trial, and we'll talk about free trial. I believe you guys have one. We no longer have a free or paid trial, so people have to just buy Ahrefs, and this is when we offer them this call. And yeah, I don't even know what percentage of them signs up for those webinars. And this is again irrelevant because some people, they're not first comers. They might have canceled Ahrefs half a year ago because they were changing jobs or whatever, and they resubscribe. So to better understand how those webinars affect, for example, first timers, we would need to sort them into buckets. So that's irrelevant. But we definitely look at how many people register, how many people show up, what's the engagement data. And those metrics tell us that people do want to hop on this call. And even though we have so much content on YouTube, we have a course on how to use Ahrefs, we have lots of articles, people still want that kind of personalized attention. Well, again, the webinar itself, it can be pre-recorded, even though we're not doing that, at least at the moment. But it's almost exactly the same, 25 minutes every time, with the exception that probably the team tries to improve it every time. But then there's time for Q&A where people ask their own questions, and this is the valuable part. This is why people signed up for it.
Can I follow up to just one thing you said? Because I got it, like you also at least tried measuring the effect of it. We did that too. And it's a very problematic thing because when we tried connecting, the emails that people use for registration for the webinar within our active subscriber base, there wasn't an overlap. So we dig deeper into how, why exactly is that? Because the invitations for those webinars are sent through our customers, right? So how the hell? And we found out that first of all, people use their private emails for registering to it because they want to have it connected with their calendar. They treat it as a educational in the, like, let's say on the private side. And secondly, our customers send links to registration to their coworkers, because who buys a software? A manager, right? Someone with a card. And then that not necessarily might be the person who will need to understand exactly how Surfer works or Ahrefs, but they have people who will work with it. So they send over the link, the 5 people register, and they are jumping on the call. And this is why I'm not like super hesitant to, I'm like not fully committed to always look at those data per se, because you need to understand the context.
Yeah, I agree with you. That data doesn't tell you much, and there's so many ways to interpret it, and there's so many pitfalls. But like I said, I would imagine any webinar platform today, for example, it would show you engagement data. It would show you how long people stick, at which points people fall off. And this is important because next time you do webinar, you can analyze engagement and you can understand which parts were the boring, which parts. I think those platforms even tell you when people switch to a different tab. I think it's called attention or something like this. Because if people switch to a different tab, then nothing interesting is going on. So those things, and they're so easy to track. Basically, they're built in, so they are very important. But yeah, so you still do those one-on-one onboarding calls, but do you do webinars for a lot of people as well?
Yes. So we are right now in the process of reorganizing our academy. And for the last 2 years straight, we had one onboarding call per week with someone from Surfer, right? That was like, let's say 40 minutes of a pure material, and then a Q&A session as long as it needed, but most often less than 20 minutes, so in total 1 hour every week. And we used a platform called demio.com for it. However, we are right now switching back to YouTube because, first of all, we don't make any use from that, tracking those emails and then trying to connect it with the intercom data or whatever. However, we want to spread those materials as much as we can and make it easy for people to share in the meantime. So whenever someone wants to use a different platform, like a tablet or a mobile phone, and that's what people were saying to us, that Demio is not working for tablets or for phones, but I need it because I'm, I don't know, commuting or moving or whatever. And YouTube is perfect for it, right? It's suited for mobile devices, for web as well. So we are coming back to YouTube. And then another factor that's like an additional bonus is amazing analytics. YouTube offers amazing analytics. So everything you said about the engagement, the views, how it looks like over the 1 hour webinar, we can export it. We can look at the data directly in the studio. So we are coming back to YouTube as we were starting. And also we are even doubling down on the Academy format because we really, we found it very, very effective for us. So Michał Suski, our co-founder, will take care of the Academy twice a month. And it will be not only product education per se, but also reaction to some changes on the market. So he always will be prepared with some, data, some opinions, as you and I know our companies work on a very large amount of data. So we always have something to share with our customers. So yeah, that's why we are switching off from any platform towards something. We are switching off from any of those paid platforms towards free YouTube.
It's very interesting. Yeah, I haven't realized that. I don't remember if I'm pretty sure we have used Demio as well. I'm not sure if we still are using it or we're using something else, but you're inside that some third party quote unquote webinar platform might not work on all the devices where people might want to listen to a webinar. Because, I can totally see someone commuting and trying to open a webinar on their Android phone, and it doesn't work for whatever reason, or glitches or something.
Yeah. Yeah, and also there is like this those problems with recordings. So, for example, people are used to having certain features, like being able to watch a video at some certain speed, let's say 1.25 or 1.5, and those platforms sometimes doesn't have it, and the quality is lower, right? And also, when you have a live stream going on YouTube, that's another place where a person who register can kind of remind or kind of see the webinar being live, and oh my god, I should watch it because I registered. So we are getting one additional channel, the second most popular platform on the web, where people are spending a lot of hours because they, for example, listen to music and they get notification. Bam, the webinar started, come and see it. Whenever we are doing webinars on YouTube, we see much higher engagement and much higher views compared to any other platforms. So we are now switching off the Academy format to YouTube again.
This is absolutely awesome takeaway. Yeah, whenever I'm following some boxing bouts, I would sometimes log in or open my YouTube app on my phone, and a video would pop up that some press conference is live or something, and I would click and watch it. So that makes a lot of sense. The only thing I don't like about this strategy, we discussed a lot of pros, or you outlined a lot of pros, but one con that I'm seeing is that those webinars are essentially the same content. Like I said, for us, it's the same, 25 minutes with subtle changes all the time. You said for you, it's 40 minutes of content. And if you don't kind of update it often, then it's the same webinar. Yeah, Q&A section would be different. But do you just leave those webinars there? So, I don't know, by the end of the quarter, you have 12 webinars, 12 same webinars for people?
No. So we used to have YouTube. So when, like 2-3 years ago, we used to do this like that. We would upload a video, publish it, and until we would have a new version of it, that would be published. But then we would make it unlisted. So you would be able to always find the most up-to-date video. And I'm following you, Ahrefs, on every social platform, and I'm seeing plenty of product releases every week, right? So every video that every live stream you have every week will be always a little bit different from the previous one. Something changes, right? Different people sign up and have different questions. So I wouldn't definitely delete it. I would just keep it unlisted, and maybe what we plan to do is to just have this section on our Academy, surferseo.com/academy landing page with all past recordings. Because for example, I can imagine a situation where the manager watched a certain live stream, and then fast forward one month later, they want to share the same exact webinar with their coworkers, and if we would delete it or remove it, they wouldn't be able to find it. So why not to just have this like archive, right? List of all webinars, so they can just be able to, use it.
To be honest with you, that sounds like a rather rare and improbable case. And even if you would just have the latest webinar, knowing that it's essentially the same webinar, maybe it would solve the problem. I don't know. But I'm not sure that is the kind of case for which I would keep all the webinar recordings on the page, but maybe it's just my opinion. It's not backed with any data or something.
I'm probably more positive about it because it's super easy on our end how we develop the CMS for it. So basically, when a webinar on YouTube ends, it keeps the same link, and after the date passed, it automatically turns to a past webinar on our landing page. So
Okay. Then I see. So for example, someone started watching the webinar but didn't finish,
for example,
and they saved the link to this webinar to come back later to it, and then it was sitting in their notes for a couple months until they finally, we need this tool, let me finish watching this webinar. They opened the link and it's no longer live. Okay, that case I do agree that it makes sense because because I do this all the time. I save links. I send them to myself kind of in Telegram chat. And they later come back to them, and I can totally see this happening.
And also, sorry, just one absolutely last thing about YouTube, because I'm extremely positive about it, and I kind of start to feel that I'm trying to convince everyone that they should be doing that too. One more thing, YouTube allows you to download things, so you can download a webinar and see it on when you are in a plane or whatever, and even download like. When you download a certain video from a YouTube channel, you get the suggestions for more. So again, additional product marketing channel.
Yeah. I think YouTube only allows to download if you have YouTube Premium.
Oh, maybe. Yes.
But that's good. There are customers who have money to spend. So that's a good target audience. Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about your homepage. Recently, I visited your homepage because we were working to update our testimonials, which we last touched like 4 years ago or something. And we wanted to delete some of the irrelevant ones, or some people who we are listing with their names and titles are no longer with those companies. So we want to keep that fresh. And I visited a few other websites to see how they handle their testimonials. So I noted that I loved the structure that you had at Surfer, but then a few weeks later, I think you changed the design. Did you change the design of your homepage recently?
Yes. We
so let's talk about the homepage design, because I think it's kind of homepage is, well, it's not just part of product marketing. It's everything. It's positioning. It's, I don't know, culture, ideology, whatever. You can put whatever you want on the homepage. So tell me about this project, about redesigning your homepage.
Okay. So where to start? Maybe first of all, why we did it. We did a lifting, a bit of rebranding to Surfer. We changed our logo slightly. We updated our color palette and did all of that smaller things. Why we did it? First of all, because Surfer got matured, and we wanted to position ourselves a bit upmarket towards what we used to do before. We did some analysis. We did tests, A/B tests, and so on, and we found out that this layout and colors and everything are scalable, so we can easily prepare all of the assets that will be in line with everything we do. And also it looks more professional for the segments that we are targeting. So the immediate reaction that those cold people who are seeing that for the first time get is that this is a serious brand. That's the, let's say, big company out there. Not like the old Surfer who used to be like witty and fun and cost $29, right? It's a different company right now. So we need to, because the product got matured, marketing needed to get in line with it. So that's like the beginning, the context. And of course, homepage is the most popular page we own. We have plenty of direct visits, a lot of searches for our brand name and so on, and also a lot of different channels pointing out to the homepage. So we took an effort to A/B test the headline. We were figuring out how to structure the communication on the homepage, when and how and what to say in every section, just to make sure that everyone that sees it for the first time understands the value of using Surfer. That was our key challenge. So if we have like 20 different products, we just couldn't show all of them. That doesn't make any sense. We needed to dive deeper into the data, the product usage, and focus only on stuff that's like really makes Surfer. And this is why the stuff you see there are effectively stuff that's being reflected from the usage patterns that we see. And if you want to tell a story, then you probably need to finish it with some call to action. But before call to action, we really wanted to show the social proof, right? So testimonials, some logos, some true case studies that people published. They agreed to publish with us. And this is how we kind of end up with this homepage. But it's not set in stone. We are optimizing it probably every month. Even the key section changed like a week ago.
So the reason I'm smiling right now when you said we're optimizing it every month is because this is kind of... So first of all, compliments on your new homepage. I quite enjoyed it. And
Thank you.
Yeah, the vibe it gives. Again, I was smiling when you said that Surfer is no longer witty, kind of laid back tool. I'm not sure that you want to completely eliminate this kind of vibe. I think it's okay to have to have some character. But yeah, again, the reason why I was smiling when you said it's not set in stone and we're going to like improve and optimize it is because after looking at your homepage, I looked at our homepage, which we were optimizing and updating with little things ever since we did a big overhaul. And I realized that we need to step up our game because we optimize with little steps. We optimized our homepage to a state where I no longer like it. Mm-hmm. So thanks to your homepage, I got reminded of kind of what kind of feeling, vibe, information, positioning your homepage should deliver. And I realized that let's add this to our homepage. Let's add that to our homepage. Let's change this. And we were doing this without kind of rethinking the whole thing that we have. And as I scrolled through it, I realized, for example, that our homepage no longer focuses a lot on specific product. Like you said, what makes Surfer, what makes Ahrefs. It no longer outlines. We have like dedicated pages for it. We have a versus page where like how is Ahrefs different from Moz or SEMrush, and we have a page for this where we don't do just side-by-side comparison, but we say these are the features that are only in Ahrefs. So we don't want to do side-by-side comparison because it is easier to make it biased and just show the things where you're strong and your competitors aren't. But yeah, there are quite a few unique features at Ahrefs, and I think you guys did a good job outlining some interesting things that people would use Surfer for. And the overall vibe, the overall design, and how it moves, I kind of enjoyed it. So I sent it in Slack to our design team. The opinions were different. Some people said that they still like ours more, blah, blah, blah. But yeah, anyway, from my point of view, I enjoyed your homepage. I think you did a great job with redesign. But tell me who was responsible for it? Who was making the decisions? Who was signing it off? How did the process of creating it? Because I would imagine, so again, it is arguable. Yes, homepage is probably the most visited page on your website. But if we take all interactions, again, it is visited, yes, but how much it influences the decision, that's a question. Because, for example, at Ahrefs, we have lots of content on YouTube. We have lots of content on our blog. Right now, as I was visiting conferences around the world, Australia, New York, Thailand, a lot of speakers use Ahrefs and use screenshots in their presentations. So all these people who interacted with us on YouTube, on our blog, at conferences, they would go to homepage. Does it really matter that much what they see there? So yeah, it is most visited page because people need to go there to go anywhere else once they interact with your website, or if they want to even log in if they're not automatically logged in. But yeah, it's arguably not that important, but still you want to use it to, like I said, set the vibe, set the tone, set the positioning. And oftentimes I think people might put too much weight on it to the point of like death by committee, where everyone would say, no, the homepage should be this. And you're just blocked because you cannot agree on what should be on the homepage. So I wonder what the process was for you. Who was working on it? Who was contributing their opinions?
Yeah.
And who had kind of the final say in it?
I let me answer that, but also I want to share an anecdote about the homepage, just to build on top what you said at the end. So 75% of people who visit our homepage doesn't scroll below the above the full section, right? So if you would like be extremely data oriented, you wouldn't care about anything else than first 1,000 pixels, right? Then it doesn't matter because 25% of people only would scroll down. However, that's only surfers, right? The 25% of people who scroll are those who are interested to learn more and to actually set expectations towards the product, and that impacts our bottom line. I would try to defend this thesis that how you start it actually helps you make people churn less at the end of the end of the cycle. If you set the expectations properly, those customers, at least some percentage of them, wouldn't churn because they would sign up with a clear expectations that Surfer can deliver. If you overpromise, if you won't explain what Surfer is properly, they would just sign up, buy a subscription, because at the end of the day, it's not like super expensive. Probably most of the companies can afford $90. But what matters for us, for you and us as well, is to have those folks paying us every month as a subscription business. So this is why we also not only optimized the above the fold section, so it's like super bold and allows people to click the sign up button or login button very easily. That was super important for us because we did some tests years ago and we kind of break it with those little optimizations. We made it harder for people to log in and sign up, and the registration numbers went down. So we needed to take care of this, of course. However, we also optimized this the rest of the website for those 25% of users who I consider are definitely more interested to learn about us. And to the process of redesigning homepage. We have a web designer who is also a programmer, front-end programmer, Arek. And personally, we are friends for like a decade already. And whenever I was switching jobs or Arek used to switch jobs, we were like in touch and we were cooperating. And it took me 2 years to convince him to go all in and full-time at Surfer. But it wasn't like super easy because he's an amazing designer and amazing.
What's his name?
Arek Palki.
Arek, if you're listening to this, Ahrefs is hiring designers.
Yeah.
He did a great job.
Yes. Yeah. And so basically he designed entire website. I mean, I'm not referring only to homepage, an entire website, every little landing page, blog post, layout, and so on. He designed everything and then he coded, right? So on that side, that's Arek. But before we started working on homepage, we did an exercise, a company-wide exercise on brand positioning, brand building, and the project was called Creating a Brand Bible. So basically, we wanted to go deep, to do a deep dive into how we should position ourselves, what are our values, to remind everyone about the strategy of the company and goal and so on. So we did that, and it took us a lot of, 6 months probably, because we didn't want to rush it. We really wanted to, just keep observing it, talking with all of the folks involved, support team, sales team, product teams, even executive team, and so on. So after we found out the way how we want to position ourselves and what we want to show on this homepage, we prepared a copy layout. And that's the task that Dani, our brand manager and copywriter, she is with us like for over 3 years already. So every little thing that you see as a text, like every little headline or whatever, that's Danny's job. And Danny and myself work on that for a few weeks. We of course got feedbacks from entire marketing team, from sales team, from designers, and from basically everyone. Everyone is always invited to share their feedback at Surfer. We synthesized it. We synthesized it. Sorry, it's a difficult word, but
I'm the same. It's fine. It's fine. It's like two non-native speakers on the podcast.
Yes, exactly. So we try to get it to the point where it's almost ready for Arek to take, and try to place it somewhere, add some graphics, and so on. So that's how the process looked like. Then we of course had a Figma project, both on desktop and mobile. We did a prototype, a clickable prototype. Everyone was able to just go through and see how the interactions are planned. We then crossed it with the data from our previous homepage, and we used those maps of what people are looking at, heat maps from Microsoft Clarity and Hotjar. There are like plenty tools that do this. So we found some patterns. We knew exactly that we can't do like a full revolution. We need to make sure that some patterns stay the same, because we have plenty of people who just get used to, clicking that button or whatever. We crossed those two layouts. We made some small changes towards it. And then we started implementing it, right? And we, after we implemented it, we of course started monitoring if the results are the same. For example, the first thing I would always recommend to always have a fallback option. This Control or Command Z option. When the registration or trial numbers go down after you change your homepage, let reverse that. Let reverse that. Think what went wrong and improve it, because the absolutely last thing you want to do is to have a homepage that hits your conversions, right? You'd always do it to improve something. So if it's not improved, then do a fallback and then try to figure it out what went wrong and do this again better. By the way, we did that plenty of times at Surfer. We released something and we needed to fall back because we broke something.
You also mentioned that you A/B tested the messaging. How did you do this?
Oh, so that's so first of all, we had an A version of the homepage, and I'm referring only to the above the fold section, right? So this headline and the first paragraph. So that's the A version, and the B version is served to the 50% of customers. And we are using our custom solution for it. We use Cloudflare workers to serve a different HTML for 50% of users, and then we add a cookie to every person that sees this B version, right? And we monitor how they behave down the process. So whenever they're registering, they have a cookie attached. So we are able to just look at the metadata of that customer that, okay, is like, some demographics, some answers to the onboarding survey. And absolutely the last thing is which version of the homepage did that person see? And if that's, at the end of the day, if you have enough folks signing up, like let's say 200, 300 people, you already are able to draw some conclusions. But as I mentioned, and that's evidence for my thesis, is that those folks who looked better, that the conversions are slightly better of registrations and trials, churned more at the end of the process. And if you have enough data, you can basically trust it and make a conclusion that, for example, that works better for conversions, but it converts worse customers, right? And the bottom line of it is that the change wasn't positive. So we did those A/B tests for plenty of different titles and headlines and first paragraphs for approximately 2 months. So we have a cohort, at least 1 month of a person being with us, how they behave later. And then we realized that this new headline, SEO Simplified, is something that kind of makes a point about what Surfer is, and also has a positive impact on the both conversions the paid free to paid, and also from visitor to registered user.
I thought maybe you were using this messaging testing tool. I recently interviewed Pep Laya, who runs softwarewinter.com, and his software basically puts your kind of draft copy in front of potential audience. So there is a panel of people with different titles in his software, and he can show it to your target audience, and they would give you some feedback. That they would need to fill out the form, like, I don't know, how did it make you feel? Which version did you like better? So I thought maybe you tried that, but you literally A/B tested. Okay, that's interesting. You also said you created a brand Bible.
Yeah.
I wonder if this is some kind of, I don't know, framework that you followed? Like, how does one create a brand Bible? Is that, I don't know, is there software for this? Are there 10 questions that everyone in the company needs to answer? Who was in charge of creating a brand Bible?
Yeah, so over a year ago, I hired Paulina, who is product marketing manager, and she has a background of she went to the university and studied some brand related stuff, and she introduced me that framework. I think she always referred to it as a brand Bible. I would need to dive deeper into how the framework is called exactly. I think it might be just, a short version for it. So she introduced me that. We then adjusted it to what I believed would work for this company, because it's extremely long process and we wouldn't be able to finish it. I knew it exactly. Like, if you need to follow like 70 or 60 steps, then it's an overkill. We wouldn't do that. So we cut the scope. We found out that we need to answer some existential questions first. So we had like strategy offsite within the exec team. We spent some time figuring out those values and, to make sure that this is coherent. It's not like a marketing asset, but this is something that actually this company will follow, will live through, and will believe in. Because that's what makes every people in this company attached to that company, and whatever it is that we believe in will be externalized towards our customers and so on. So this is exactly what I said. I said it took us 6 months. This process was long. We didn't rush it, and Paulina used to own it for a majority of the time. I was supporting her and cutting the corners, making sure that someone from exec team who just didn't maybe find the time before to answer that question because it's important. So I was doing some political lobbying there for her, and then during the absolutely last month, I took charge of it because we needed to wrap it up and finalize it. And also Paulina needed vacation in December. So I came back from my vacation. She went for hers, and I finalized this with some help from, of course, entire marketing team, our VP of growth, and finally we made a not publicly available document. There is like 2 versions of it. Like, one is simplified, and that's like public document, for example, for our partners, called brand book, right? And it also consists of all of this positioning guidelines and logos and things like that. And there's like one internal, which also dives deeper into the story of Surfer and values and everything that's important for employees.
So you said there is a public version. How to find it? If I want to take a look, or if anyone else wants to take a look of what you did there.
Yes. I think absolutely the fast track to it is every our affiliate has access to it. I think it's also publicly available on our at the bottom of our homepage. There is a section called Brand Assets. And if you click on it, then you should be able to find it. If you can't do it right now, then I need to update it. But I will do so after the call ends, so it will be there.
Yeah, that's great because I would love to take a look, and I think some other people would love to take a look, like what all those exercises resulted in, and maybe do something for their own company. But let's get back to educational materials, videos, and all that, because I believe you guys have a certification.
Yes.
People were asking us for certification for years, probably ever since I joined and we started doing our first educational videos. People wanted to be certified. And I think this year we'll finally release it. We'll finally do like the test, the quiz, we'll give out certificates. And we also have a course, like pretty comprehensive course that goes quite in depth into everything that we have in Ahrefs. It took us a ton of time to create this course. But tell me about your certification. First of all, are you using some platform for it, or is it developed in-house? And secondly, what's the rationale behind that? Why did you do it? Why did you do this?
Sure. Okay, so I will start with the latter question. We did it because, of course, we've been asked by our users, mostly by the writers who used Surfer to write SEO optimized content, and then they would, send the content for the customer, and they would charge a little bit more because it is SEO optimized. And secondly, we got the same feedback from agencies and from companies, mostly from US, that they are looking for Surfer certified writers. They don't want to work with someone who just claims that they know Surfer. They really want to work with someone who, understands the Surfer and is able to prove it somehow. So we've got it like from two different places, but eventually it downs to one thing. You need to create a certification system. So we did an SEO writing masterclass, a free course on how to write SEO optimized content. And at the end of the course, we invited all of those folks who did it to take a quiz, it's 30 questions, so not super simple, not super easy. And at the end of the process, you also need to provide us with an URL to shareable content editor link with a text that is optimized and it's like yours, so it's plagiarism free. So all of the writers who want to take the test, and then they need to one backstory, we also allowed all of those writers to have a plan for $1. So that's not a barrier for them to just sign up for an $89 subscription. They could do it just to take the quiz, take the test, and then have a certificate, wait for a customer, and then come back to Surfer, pay for subscription, or sometimes just get a shareable link from the agency from US, write the text directly there, and just click, submit, done, and that's it. So all of them would need to write a text that's optimized, SEO optimized, plagiarism free. And then we would manually, of course, we have some automation that allows us to speed up the process. But at the end of the day, there's a person who manually reviews that every week. And then we issue certificates to those folks. And we are doing that for a third year in a row. And it's amazing how many people are just adding that to their LinkedIn profile. There are some businesses based on that. One thing, maybe I can promote one, our client. There's like surferwriter.com. And this business is just built on top of Surfer service. They write as Surfer optimized content. That's an agency. There are some agencies in Poland that have landing pages, they provide Surfer optimized content, and they have a certificate. So this is why we did it. And in terms of how effective it is for brand building, it's amazing, right? If you would type on LinkedIn to see how many people have those certificates, there are like hundreds of them. And it creates an emotional relationship with us for those folks.
You're making me feel bad about not prioritizing our certification. But to be honest, now that we talk about it, you can see me watching sideways all the time. This is me trying to extrapolate whatever you're saying on us. And when you're saying that the people who take the certification, they need to submit a piece of work where you can verify that they actually did something with that, I was thinking, if there's something like that can be submitted with Ahrefs. It's not like you submit that you've built a link or that you did, I don't know, keyword research or you audited a website. So yeah, that's interesting that you have this kind of piece that they have to submit to show that they actually did some work.
Yes, but in your case, it would be more difficult to have something like that. But you can, like contrary to us, you can ask a lot of tricky questions to see whether a person really understands Ahrefs. You can ask about, your metrics and how to use them, or maybe even different tools. Maybe you can play dirty with just renaming some names just to make sure if they catch it. And I believe this the quiz that you might create could be similar to what Google does when you want to get a certificate for Google Ads. Those are tricky courses, right? You have like 100 questions, and they sometimes ask about fundamental stuff. How would you think about the project? And you have a couple of answers. Only one is correct. And they are like randomized. So you probably would be able to find a key for that in web somewhere. But of course, Google doesn't really care at the end of the day if someone is a true expert or not. But the course itself is pretty tough. I did it in 2018. I did like a couple of certifications from Facebook, from Google, from HubSpot. And I believe Google was the best. So you can take inspirations from it, I believe.
Yeah, we will definitely make our quiz quite complicated. There are definitely many bells and whistles that would separate a newbie from a pro. And one other thing that we did a big mistake with is that we wanted to release certification only once we had a kind of complete all-encompassing course about Ahrefs. So people would need to watch the course, and within their account, whether free account or paid account, it should be kind of noted that all the videos are completed. And only then they can take a certification course and we can give them a certificate. But now that I'm thinking about it, the certification can exist separately. Because if you know the tool well, even without watching a course, if you've been using the tool for many, many years, and if you've been following the new developments of the tool, the new features, and implementing them, you can take the course you can take the quiz, the certification without watching any course. And what I realized, and this is probably more I'm thinking aloud for people who are thinking to create a certification within their software or platform, we could have started from a fairly easy quiz, given that we don't have enough educational materials to give to people before they take the quiz. So we could have started with somewhat easier certification, and then we could both release more educational materials and upgrade our certification, remove the easy questions, add some hard questions. And I'm not sure about yours, and I don't remember how we're going to do it, but we were discussing that the certification should expire. Okay. That you only get it for a year or 2 years, because what the software is today, 2 years from now, 3 years from now, it would be a different software. And if you got certified back in 2015, you might not know the software well as of today. So do your certificates expire?
No, but I believe that's like a mistake, and we probably would need to rethink the course and the certification program at some point. And I agree completely that it should work like this. However, one backstory. We also had a certification for watching the course before. We had a course like SEO Writing Masterclass 1.0, and that was like over 30,000 people sign up for that course. It became a viral at some point in 2020, I think, or 2021. So you would get a certificate after watching all of the videos, and we used a platform called Teachable for monitoring and issuing those certificates automatically. It was perfect for brand building, but it didn't have a value, right? Per se. Yeah, you could get a certificate for watching a course. Okay, that's fine. But do you have the skills required for the work? Not sure. So then we created this second course that used all of the feedback we've got and then made the certification program real when you need to take a quiz and do the task. But I agree, it should expire.
You did it correctly. I think everyone should be moving in smaller steps because we tried to make everything right from the start. And this is why it's 2024 and we still haven't released our certification. But if we did what you did, if we would start simple, like Teachable offers certification for completing a course, let's use that. Later we'll have something more complicated. Later we'll have more complicated, because right now, again, nothing is stopping you from announcing a new certification and saying that, okay, this is the new certification of the new state of toolset and it's going to expire like once a year or once in 2 years. So all the previous certificates are outdated. Nothing stops you from doing that. And everyone, it's not that anyone will get mad that 5 years ago they got a certificate and it's no longer valid, because it just by logic makes sense.
Yeah, and we have, email addresses to all of those folks with certificates, so we can reach out to them and say, guys, your certificates will expire in 3 months.
Yeah.
Take the course again. And by the way, if you can't afford a full subscription for the certification, here is like a free trial. You can do so within a trial. So yeah, I think what makes Surfer really great place to work with from my point of view is that we ship things fast. Sometimes we should have been thinking a bit more about stuff. That's like a flip side of the same coin. But at the end of the day, I believe it's still better to sometimes fail when you ship too fast than not shipping enough, let's say, both in marketing and in product.
Finally, let's talk about AI content.
Okay.
And I will start from a tricky question, because I was looking at your blog traffic and it did start growing in the past kind of 2 years. But still, I think according to Ahrefs estimation, it's about 80,000 visits per month from search. And when I looked at your top pages that are bringing you traffic, a lot of them are about AI and ChatGPT and those new kinds of things. So yeah, my question is, you are a tool for creating and optimizing content, but your blog only started picking up pace just recently.
Yes.
Walk me through that.
So SEO wasn't a channel for us for many, many years, because we just couldn't compete with anyone on those SERPs because of domain authority, the keyword difficulty of those keywords. And we became a serious domain to fight for the, let's say, lucrative positions around 2 years ago. But it is still not possible for us to rank for terms that are like one-on-one related to the business we are in. Your website, SEMrush, Backlink, Neil Patel, all of those extreme, like super strong domains dominate the SERPs. So instead of fighting and heading towards a wall with our head, we started looking at other clusters where we could take advantage of, and we could build our authority. So whenever we release something, and I have one example for it that I want to bring up a bit later, we'll be ready. So we kind of create a topical authority, let's say, in an AI content niche, an AI detection, humanizer, or wherever. And when we are ready with releasing a product called AI Detector and Humanizer, which, by the way, we released this Monday, like 5 days ago, that was our bet. We would be able to rank with it. And what happened? We released the landing page on Monday, and today, I've checked this morning, we've got 3,500 clicks for that landing page only for yesterday, right? And we normally get 10,000 visitors a day on our homepage. So it's like on our website. So it's like 35% more right away, just because we developed a free product that fits perfectly with our current offering and positioning and what our customers are requesting for. And the majority of that traffic is coming from US. Those are mostly, agencies, content agencies who want to check whether the content that they got from a copywriter or whoever is AI generated or not. If so, Surfer will tell you. So we took these extra steps to write a lot of articles around that cluster. Now, whenever we interlinked those pages within the landing page that we just created on Monday, we got a boost, and our bet paid off. Actually, it helped us with it. But there is a long way for us to grow our blog even more in those lucrative niches. But we are, doing our best. We are keep developing products that are we are not buying backlinks, by the way. We are not, buying guest posts or whatever. We are just producing as quality articles as possible that might get a chance to be naturally backlinked with some other articles. And also, we have some free tools that get attraction, like Keyword Surfer or this Humanizer. People link to it naturally in their articles. So yeah. And also, even though we have a Surf AI, a product that generates articles, I'm hesitant to use it at scale. I would never recommend anyone to just generate 1,000 articles with Surf AI and just publish it on website. We didn't do this for that purpose. I can share that with you because we had a lot of discussions when we were in the process of developing the product, how to price it, and what could happen if we would just cut the cost down to $1 per generation and then add a margin and then sell it for like $3 or $4, right? We didn't want to do it because we were afraid that people would abuse it. So instead, we did everything we could to make these articles the best possible. And if that means that it would cost us $10, $15 to generate an article, and we would need to price it heavily compared to what was available on the market, we are fine with it. We wanted to create a premium solution that takes you from 0 to 90%, let's say, in 20 minutes. But then there's a human touch needed and editing and reviewing that, and it's cost enough to cut, let's say, all of those people who would be abusing that. And this is why we didn't have a customer whose content generated with Surf AI was penalized. The website that was relying on Surf AI was penalized. I mean, maybe somewhere, but we are monitoring those websites that are connected to Surfer if they are okay with it, and they were in situations like that. Maybe because we didn't achieve the scale as our competitors who, generated millions of articles. We didn't want to play that game. We created this as an additional service for customers that using Surfer anyway, so they don't have to go elsewhere, right? So it wasn't meant to be our core business as for other companies that pop up in the meantime. And now they are being destroyed because they relied on ChatGPT prompt, one single prompt, and the content is so weak that I'm not surprised that it got penalized.
There's so much to unpack in what you just said that it could probably be another podcast episode more focused on SEO. As you can tell, Ahrefs Podcast is not very SEO focused. I go deep into like all sorts of areas that are interesting to me personally. But first of all, I want to talk a little bit about topical authority. I'm not sure that I'm personally buying that concept, and it would be very interesting to know what would happen to your AI humanizer or AI content detection tool. I saw it generated a nice spike in Ahrefs traffic, and it's quite recent. I wonder, what's that? It would be very interesting to see what would happen to it if you didn't create all that content that, as you say, supposedly created topical authority. And I'll tell you why. Dmitry, our CEO and founder, he had exact match domain wordcount.com. And he wanted to do something with it, but never we had any resources for that. But then there was some opportunity to put a developer on this project and quickly develop a simple word count tool. So we developed a very simple word count tool. You you copy paste the text and it would calculate the number of characters, words, sentences, paragraphs, and whatnot. And we put a single link to it from the homepage of Ahrefs to an entirely different domain. So it was a different, it was old domain. It was an exact match domain, but it didn't have any authority. It didn't have any links apart from Ahrefs homepage. And the freaking thing started ranking for word count. Yeah, maybe the exact match domain is, again, Google is saying exact match domains aren't a thing. People can argue about it, if there are or if they aren't. But there were already other exact, like wordcounter.com or like things along those lines. And our website was ranking. Another story. As OpenAI released their API to the public and all those AI tools started getting more and more traction, we noticed that the guys at copy.ai, you probably noticed that as well. They released a lot of free tools. Yeah. And right now, the guy who was responsible for that, Zach, he wrote quite a few posts on LinkedIn about this play with free SEO tools, free AI tools. I'm actually interviewing him next week, so that would also be very interesting. We noticed that at Ahrefs, these guys are generating lots of traffic with these tools and they're so easy to build. Let's have them at Ahrefs. So we built a dozen or a couple dozen of these tools and we started generating traffic with them as well, even though we didn't have any topical authority for paragraph rewriter or paraphrasing tool. So basically where I'm going with this is that you simply created a useful tool which people started using, and I believe that it ranked just because Google saw the behavioral signals and because, like you said, your domain just naturally, because of all the other marketing work that you were doing, you got enough mentions, enough links for Google to trust your domain. So whatever you release, they would give it a chance. And they saw that it was a useful free tool and people started using it. Yeah, so that's the first thing I wanted. Yeah. Do you want to comment on this?
Yeah, because perhaps for larger domains, it doesn't make much sense to do all of that. But imagine being, a website with, domain authority, like, 20, the domain rating.
But wordcount.com, I think it had zero backlinks. That was my point.
But they got a backlink from Ahrefs, right? And of course, Google says that their backlinks don't work anymore, but of course they work. And imagine being that super small company that can't get a backlink from Ahrefs or from Surfer or from any other big company that can, for example, push a lot of indexing towards it and attention from Google. What else you can do? And you probably won't have a budget to spend for a backlink from Forbes, like 5K or whatever. But you can afford writing 10 articles, maybe even with ChatGPT and some editing. You can do it in a week. And you get more of content related to this one particular topic. You get more of the more chances that Google will notice it and index it, and then it naturally makes it coherent for a user. If they read about keto diet benefits, they might be interested about the pitfalls. So it's like the other side of the same coin. What are the cons of being on keto diet? And you get people click those extra articles and staying more on your website and so on and so forth. So I'm not looking at the topical authority only from that point of view that it can give you a boost in a SEO game, but it also makes it better for users. It's a new term, we can argue whether it's a thing or not. I'm just referring to the fact that whenever you write about one particular topic, there are like dozens of different surrounding topics that you can cover to make your blog more informative for users and to provide even more value. And because those clustering solutions, like for example, the solution we've developed, make it super easy to take 100,000 keywords from Google Search Console and then cluster them together and create this relationship between them, you are able to just prioritize it correctly instead of just blindly follow, the guidelines or looking at this from a different angle. You can just focus on one cluster at the time. And it's also easier for writers to write about one cluster at a time because they are, learning about the same thing. They don't have to switch the context. So I'm looking at this from that point of view mostly.
Let me ask you another challenging question. As you can tell, I left all the grilling until the end. We're almost out of time. So you say that for you in the beginning, for Surfer, it was hard to compete with the likes of Ahrefs, SEMrush, and other tools that were ranking for the keywords related to SEO. For us, even today, it's hard. Ahrefs.com, our DR is 91, so we have lots of a huge backlink profile, lots of authority in the field, blah, blah, blah. But still, even we struggle to rank for a lot of keywords. And it's not just SEMrush, Backlinko, there's HubSpot, which is a behemoth in the digital marketing industry. We saw, for example, MailChimp writing some articles about marketing and also tracking everyone. So even for us, it is hard. And where I'm going with this is a lot of content marketers, they create the same content that they essentially see ranking at the top of the search results. Mm-hmm. And this is kind of how I see what Surfer does. It tells you what is working in the current search results, do something similar, and you'll rank. But I fundamentally don't like this approach. I don't want to create more of the same stuff. I don't want to create similar pages. And again, when we're talking about AI and ChatGPT, it takes the corpus of content that it has already seen, and it just creates kind of statistically most probable thing. But it cannot take the information from an outside world and offer something new. So I wonder, what are you guys doing to make internet a better place and not a flood of copycat content and content farms?
I love that question. Seriously. I think it's valid. And my perspective on this is similar to what I said with generating AI content. I think it just takes you from 0 to 80 or 90 and sets you some fundamentals. For example, if you want to rank high for that particular keyword and your competitors are writing about all of that stuff, you also need to write about it. So that's a baseline, right? And then whatever you are coming up with to the table, so unique perspective, some data, whatever, it's on you, right? And this is something that you can feed into Surfer, and then Surfer will create a content around it from your points, right? You can even, attach a document or link to something, and then Surfer AI will try to write it as you would normally, and that's your unique perspective. So I think that's the answer. Surfer just helps you figure it out. What's the baseline? What is absolutely required to rank for it? The absolute minimum. And then there's this extra 20%, the last 20% of the job that writer or whoever needs to do, editor, to make this content more engaging, better than the competition, to provide a value for the users. So for example, one more thing. When you have existing content and you paste it to Surfer and add a keyword, then we scrape all what's happening in the SERPs and related SERPs to that keyword, and we look up your content compared to other content. And when we see that you are missing on some topics, not only entities, but you are actually not providing an information that occurred in the meantime after you published the article. For example, let's say you had an article about Apple Car project, but Apple Car project has been discontinued, right? We'll make you a suggestion, right? And if you would click auto optimize, it will be your section about it will be automatically rewritten to include that information, right? So then you are not falling behind the competitors. But if you have some unique perspective, I don't know, maybe you work at Apple or you have a colleagues that work there and you can share something, that's on you. I wouldn't suggest anyone to blindly look at those metrics. This is a tool. And in any hands, it can be used, perfectly. They can just take advantage of whatever we came up with for them, and they can sparkle with their knowledge and experience, or they can just use it in a wrong way. Just copy and paste whatever the competitors are doing and rephrase it. Use ChatGPT to just paraphrase whatever the competitors written. I don't like this approach. Whenever I'm recording something on our YouTube or I'm writing something on our blog or social media, I try to educate people that this, once you get, maybe it will get in the short term that's helpful, but in the longer run, what it matters is the reputation that you have, relationships that you have with customers. So you always need to think how to please them, make them the content more valuable for them.
We're out of time, but can we do one last question?
Yes, sure.
I don't remember who is author of this quote, but I think multiple people said the same thing, just in different words. Something along the lines of AI helps more people to create average work, or AI makes it easier to be average or to be mediocre even. So what is your advice to people? You said it a few times that AI gets you there 80% or 60% or 70%, doesn't matter. The actual number doesn't matter. Mm-hmm. So what are those remaining 20%? How to go from average to excellent?
Perfect question. Depends on the niche, but the principle is being an expert in whatever you are doing, right? So, for example, if we are talking about our niche, marketing, product marketing, the perspective that you and I have after working for our companies, you for 9 years, I have 6 years at Surfer, this is something that I would consider as this extra 20%, because probably 80% of our conversation can be even generated with ChatGPT. But all of those, the perspective, the unique perspective, the data I shared, the data you shared, the challenges that you face within your team, all of those hard discussions that you had with a team, this is the remaining 20% that make you and me. I would use a comparison to DNA. We are 98% similar to monkeys, right? 98%. And that's remaining 2% is what makes a huge difference at the end of the day. In your niche, when you compete with HubSpot, with SEMrush, with all of those big brands, I think that's not 20%. It's this 2%, why your servers are faster than SEMrush. Maybe only 2% faster, but in compound effect, it makes someone wait for a query 10 seconds less. And that's what makes SEMrush Ahrefs more useful than SEMrush, let's say. So comparing to content, sometimes it might be just about this extra unique perspective. I think that 80% of books I read can be removed from that book. I wasted time reading that, basically. It's just something that I would forget after I finish the book. And that 20% is something that just sticks to my mind, because this is a perspective from the experienced author that just made a point after figuring out the stuff for 15 years, maybe.
Tom, thanks a lot for the conversation. Not sure about you, but I enjoyed it a lot.
I enjoyed it very, very much. Thank you so much, Tim, for having me, and have a wonderful rest of the day, everyone.
Thanks a lot for sticking till the very end of this episode. I guess that means you enjoyed it, right? Because if you did, I have to ask you to subscribe to this YouTube channel, or maybe click the follow button if you're listening to this on Apple or Spotify. Not sure if you know this, but subscriptions and follows are the strongest signal for these platforms to show this piece of content to more people. So I would really, really appreciate it if you would follow and subscribe. Thanks in advance, and I'll see you in the next episode. Bye.